8 hours of hard work. That's what this dog was built for. Not a brisk walk, not fetch in the yard. 8 hours of running ridgelines, turning sheep, doubling back, doing it again. And here's the part nobody tells you when you fall for the photos. You can't undo that. You don't get to buy an Australian Shepherd, give it a 30-minute walk, and end up with a dog that's tired. That dog doesn't exist. I think people see the floof and the Merle coat and they kind of assume, I don't know, golden retriever energy with cooler markings. It is not that. It's a dog that'll physically tire before its brain does, and a tired body with a wired brain is, well, that's how furniture gets destroyed. Baseboards chewed down to the framing, a dog that figures out how to open cabinets because what else was it supposed to do at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday? And the cruel part, you can run this dog into the ground every single day, and you're still not done because it needs to think. Puzzle toys, scent work, training drills, something. A physically exhausted Aussie with nothing to chew on mentally will invent a job, usually a job you didn't want done, like rearranging the trash, herding the cat into the laundry room, repeatedly. So when people ask what the biggest unspoken thing about owning one of these dogs is, that's it. You don't tire an Aussie, you manage it. There's a difference. The dog isn't being aggressive. I want to say that first, because I think a lot of new owners panic about this and end up rehoming a perfectly normal Aussie over what is basically the dog doing its job. The wrong job, but its job. Aussies were bred to control the movement of livestock that weighed 10 times what they did. They didn't do it by being big. They did it by reading the herd, getting low, staring it down, and when staring didn't work, nipping. The heels mostly. Quick, sharp, leave no mark nips that say, move now, move that direction, keep moving. Now put a 4-year-old in front of that dog. The kid runs. The dog sees livestock that's gone rogue, so it does the thing. It circles, it crouches, it cuts off the angles, and if the kid keeps running, it nips. Ankles usually, heels, sometimes the back of the calf. And the parents lose their minds, understandably. But the dog isn't malfunctioning. It's doing exactly what 8 generations of selective breeding programmed it to do, on the only moving target available. What's frustrating about it? You can train around this. Redirection, impulse control, structured play that gives the herding drive somewhere to go. It's not a death sentence, but you have to know it's coming, and almost nobody tells you it's coming. They sell you on the intelligence and the loyalty and how stunning the coat is in the sunlight. Nobody mentions that your toddler is, to this dog, a sheep. There's a gene called MDR1, multi-drug resistance 1, and if your Aussie has the mutated version, which, by the way, somewhere around half of them do, depending on the lineage, but the number is genuinely that high, then a bunch of completely ordinary medications can kill it. I want to be specific, because vague is dangerous here. Ivermectin, the dewormer in most heartworm preventatives at high doses, locaramide, the active ingredient in Imodium, several chemo drugs, some sedatives. The list is longer than that, but those are the ones a regular pet owner is most likely to bump into without thinking. The way it works, basically, there's a protein that's supposed to pump these drugs out of the brain. The mutated gene doesn't make that protein properly, so the drug just stays, builds up in the central nervous system. The dog gets disoriented, starts tremoring, can seize, and in a bad enough dose, dies. The fix is stupidly simple. Cheek swab. You send it off, you get a result back telling you whether your dog is normal, a carrier, or affected. Costs around $70. Every Aussie should have it done. Every single one. Before any major medication. Before surgery. before some well-meaning friend offers your dog an Imodium for an upset stomach. And yet, plenty of vets don't bring this up proactively. Plenty of breeders skip the test. Plenty of owners find out about MDR1 the bad way, in an ER at 2 a.m., wondering why a routine drug just put their dog into a seizure. Your Aussie picks a person, usually within the first couple months of being in the house, and once that pick is made, that's it, done, filed away. The rest of you are roommates. I think this is the part nobody warns you about. You bring a puppy home, the whole family's losing their minds, everyone's on the floor with the squeaky toy, and then somewhere around week 6, the dog just quietly decides it's gonna be dad, or it's gonna be the teenager who barely pets him. Doesn't matter how much time you put in, the Aussie's running its own algorithm and you don't get to vote. Now, barely tolerates is maybe a little harsh. He'll be polite, he'll let your wife scratch his ears, he'll eat the treat your kid offers. But watch where he sleeps. Watch who he follows to the bathroom. Watch who he checks on when there's a weird noise outside. That's his person. Everyone else is staff. And look, this is a herding dog thing. These dogs were bred to lock in on one shepherd and read that one shepherd's body language across a whole field. They're not built for democratic affection. They're built for a chain of command of one. The honest version is, if you're getting an Aussie because you want a dog the whole family bonds with equally, you bought the wrong breed. He's not being mean. He's just already chose, and he chose like 3 weeks ago. You missed it. There's a specific moment. You'll know it when it happens. You give a command, sit, down, whatever. The dog looks at you, holds eye contact for maybe a second longer than usual, and then just doesn't do it. Not defiant, not scared, just evaluating whether your request is, worth his time. That's the moment. Congratulations. You now live with a coworker. See, most breeds, when they blow off a command, it's because they didn't hear you or they got distracted by a smell or whatever. With an Aussie, it's different. He heard you, he understood you, he ran the cost-benefit analysis, and he concluded that what you're asking is kinda dumb, so he's gonna pass. And honestly, half the time he's right. You told him to come inside, but he can hear the mailman 2 houses down, and somebody's gotta deal with that. You told him to stop barking at the window, but there is in fact a squirrel. From his perspective, you're the one missing the bigger picture. The thing is, and this is what trips people up, you can't out-train this. You can't dominance bark your way past it. The dog isn't being disobedient. He's being a middle manager. He wants to know the why. Give him a reason, give him a job, give him something that makes sense to his brain, and he'll move mountains. Skip the why and just bark orders, he'll humor you for about a week and then quietly start ignoring the ones that seem pointless. It's not malice, it's a performance review. You're the one being reviewed. Come home at 6, open the door, couch cushions gone, like geographically relocated. Stuffing in the hallway, one shoe in the kitchen, the other shoe somehow upstairs. Dog sitting in the middle of it looking weirdly relaxed about the whole situation. That's the bill for being gone 9 hours, paid in furniture. And listen, I know how this sounds. All dogs need exercise, all dogs hate being alone. Sure, but there's a difference between a lab who gets bored and chews a shoe and an Aussie who treats your absence as a personal insult that requires a coordinated response. These dogs were bred to work all day, not sit on a dog bed. Work, as in sprinting, problem solving, getting yelled at by a farmer, redirecting livestock, the whole job. You took a 5th-generation employee of the year and gave him a crate in a Kong. The math doesn't work. He's got an 8-hour shift's worth of energy and nowhere to put it. So he finds places to put it. The baseboards, the blinds, your kids' stuffed animals, sometimes the actual drywall. And the really fun part is, the smarter ones get creative. They figure out how to open the trash, the pantry, the bedroom door you swore was latched. Honestly, if you work a standard office job and you're alone all day, I'd think twice. Like hard. Either you've got a dog walker coming midday, a daycare situation, a working from home partner, something, or you're gonna spend the next 12 years apologizing to your couch. Sunlight hits the kitchen floor in a long, bright patch, and the dog locks onto it, doesn't move, doesn't even blink. That's the next 40 minutes gone if nobody intervenes. People film this stuff and post it like it's a quirky personality thing. Look how focused she is, OMG, so smart. It can look cute for about half a minute. Then you realize the dog physically cannot pull itself out of the loop. Has to be picked up and carried into another room. This is a compulsive behavior. The clinical name is canine compulsive disorder, and Aussies get diagnosed with it way more than the average breed. That's not me guessing, it's in the veterinary literature. The herding drive is so loud, so constantly hunting for something to push around, that when there's no sheep and no kids and no soccer ball, it'll grab whatever's moving. A shadow on the wall, or a reflection bouncing off somebody's watch. Worst case, the tip of its own tail, which is, the classic Aussie ream. And once that loop kicks in, the dog keeps reinforcing it. Chasing feels good, brain rewards it. Next time the trigger shows up, it's that much easier to fall back in. What gets me is how many owners don't register it as a problem until it's been going on a year, 2 years. By then, it's basically wired in, laser pointer. The meds help a lot, but once a loop like that's burned in, it never fully unburns. Two Merle Aussies bred together, and 1 in 4 pups comes out what's called a double Merle, mostly white coat. Looks gorgeous in photos, if you don't know what you're looking at, and most buyers genuinely don't. What you're actually looking at is a dog that's very likely deaf, partially or fully blind, sometimes born with eyes that didn't form correctly, or didn't form at all. The reason's genetic, and it's not complicated. The Merle gene messes with pigment cells, and pigment cells aren't only about coat color. They also play a role in how the inner ear develops and in parts of the eye. 1 copy of the gene, you get that marbled coat everybody loves. 2 copies, the pigment cells basically don't show up where they're supposed to. Coat goes mostly white. Ears and eyes pay the bill. Any breeder who knows what they're doing won't pair 2 Merles, period. It's been the oldest ethical line in this breed for a long time. But people do it anyway, because mostly white, blue-eyed Aussies sell, and somebody saw one on Instagram and decided that's the look they want. A lot of those puppies get quietly euthanized at birth because the breeder doesn't want a dog they can't move. Others get dumped at shelters once the new owner figures out the puppy can't hear them calling. There are now enough double Merles being produced that whole rescue organizations exist specifically to take them in. Whole organizations, for a problem that doesn't have to exist. If a breeder ever shows you 2 Merle parents, walk. I mean it. Walk out and don't come back. Owner takes the Aussie on a 2-hour hike, comes home, expects the dog to crash on the couch. Dog does not crash on the couch. Dog is, if anything, more wound up than when it left, pacing, finding stuff to herd, staring at the kids like they're sheep. And the owner's standing there going, "What is wrong with this dog? I just walked it for 2 hours." The walk isn't the problem here. It was just a thing the dog did. A long, semi-boring thing where the dog was on a leash and nobody asked it to make a single decision. These dogs were bred to do a job that requires actual thinking. Read the sheep, predict where they're heading, cut them off, push them where the human wants them, an Aussie into the ground physically, and the brain is still going at full speed. What actually settles them is something that taxes the head. 20 minutes of real training drills can do more than 2 hours of walking. Could be scent work, could be agility. A frisbee session where the dog has to read the angle and time the catch. Even a flirt pole, used right with clear starts and stops. The pattern is short bursts of something mentally demanding with a real job baked into the activity. If you bring one of these dogs home and you're not ready to give it that every day, forever, get a different dog. I'm not being dramatic. Get a different dog. Okay, so the nipping. 3 weeks in, your toddler sprints across the kitchen and your fluffy little Merle puppy launches at her ankles, like teeth out launches. And you're standing there going, wait, what? It's not aggression. That's the part people get wrong. An Aussie nipping at heels is just doing the job nobody hired it for. 200 years of breeding to move sheep. You don't unbreed that in a generation. The dog sees motion, the dog moves the motion. That's the whole algorithm. Problem is, the motion is usually your kid or your friend who came over. The Amazon guy, you walking from the couch to the kitchen. And the nip itself is, okay, it's not a bite exactly. It's a pinch, a grab. Sometimes it draws blood, sometimes it doesn't. But the dog isn't trying to hurt anybody. It's trying to move you. To the dog, you're a slow sheep that needs guidance. Try explaining that to a 4-year-old with a bruised calf. I think this is the single most underestimated thing about the breed. People hear herding dog and they picture, I don't know, a noble border collie staring at a hillside. They don't picture their golden retriever-shaped fantasy taking a chunk out of their nephew at a barbecue. You can train around it. You can. But it takes work. And it never fully goes away. The instinct is in the wiring. You're managing it for life. They follow you to the bathroom. That's the first thing you notice. You cannot close a door in this house without a paw scraping at it from the other side. You'll be brushing your teeth at 2 a.m. and there's a dog, just sitting there, watching, ready to trail you back to bed the second you're done. Aussies don't bond like other dogs. They imprint. They pick a person and decide that person is basically the sun. Their whole emotional life reorganizes around staying within 4 feet of you. And if you're that person, congratulations, you've got a 50-pound shadow with abandonment issues. The trouble starts when you leave, even for an hour. Some Aussies handle it fine, sure. A lot of them don't. You come home to chewed door frames, shredded couch cushions, neighbors complaining about howling that started 6 minutes after the door clicked shut. And the rough part is, okay, the part I think is genuinely tough, you can't really train this out. Not the way you train a sit or a recall. The attachment is baked in. They were bred to work alongside a person from sunup to sundown, eyes locked on the handler. You can't tell that wiring to chill out because you have a Zoom meeting. Crate training helps. So does a second dog. A really tired Aussie's easier on everyone too. But if you live alone and work outside the house 12 hours a day, maybe don't get one. I mean it. Collie eye anomaly. That's the one to know. It's a developmental defect. The back of the eye doesn't form right while the puppy's still in the womb. By the time you bring the dog home, the damage is done. There's no fix, no treatment. The dog either has it or doesn't. And a lot of Aussies have it. Some estimates put the carrier rate around 2/3 of the breed. 2 out of 3 dogs carrying genes for something that can blind their puppies. Then there's progressive retinal atrophy, which gets you to blindness by a different route. The retina slowly degenerates. The dog goes night blind first, then peripheral vision starts to go, then everything. Usually shows up in middle age. By the time you notice your dog bumping into furniture, you're already deep into it. Cataracts too. Iris coloboma, basically a hole in the iris where one shouldn't be. The list keeps going. And then there's the Merle thing. 2 Merle parents bred together, you get what's called a double Merle. And the genetics that make those gorgeous blue eyes and marbled coats, at double dose, they delete pigment from the inner ear and the eye. Deaf, blind, sometimes both. Backyard breeders do this on purpose because double Merles look striking. It's one of the grimmer corners of the dog world. The fix is testing. A decent breeder DNA tests both parents before any breeding. If yours didn't, you find out the hard way, years later at the vet, watching the dog squint at a treat it can't quite locate. Shelter workers have a name for it. They call it the Aussie cycle. Family adopts the puppy at 8 weeks, falls in love, posts the photos. 18 months later, that same dog is back at the rescue, maybe sooner. Bigger now, anxious, already nipping at the kids. And the surrender form always says some version of the same thing. More than we expected. Couldn't keep up. And this one's the worst one, started showing aggression, which usually means the dog wasn't given a job and started inventing one, usually a bad one. The breed gets marketed all wrong. People see those blue eyes in the Merle coat, gorgeous dog, photographs like a movie star, and they think they're getting a golden retriever in a fancier coat. What they're actually getting is a working animal that was bred for like 12, 14 hours a day of pushing livestock across a mountain. That genetics doesn't just evaporate because you live in a 2-bedroom in Phoenix. So the dog gets a normal person life. A walk in the morning, maybe a fetch session if the owner's feeling generous, and the Aussie's brain is sitting there idling at 6,000 RPM with nowhere to put it. That's where the trouble starts. Not at month 1, month 9, 10, 11, when the puppy cuteness wears off and what's left is a high-octane working dog who's been bored out of its mind for the better part of a year. That's the dog that ends up at the shelter. The nip happens on the calf, or behind the knee, never the face, never the hands. And the owner's standing there going, "What? He's never done that before. He loves people." Okay, so what looks like aggression to you is hurting to the dog. The calf nip is the exact same move he'd use on a sheep that wandered out of formation. And to him, your guest who just walked in the front door is a sheep that wandered out of formation. This isn't a personality problem, and it isn't really a training failure either. It's a couple hundred years of selective breeding for one very specific behavior: gather, push, redirect, being aimed at a target it was never designed for, which is your friend Greg, who came over for pizza. The breed-specific part is that the Aussie's threshold for what counts as out of formation is, weirdly low. Other dogs need a stranger to do something genuinely sketchy before they react. With an Aussie, anything ambiguous reads as a threat. Stranger moving too quick, somebody reaching toward you the wrong way, that kind of thing, all triggers. The dog's just running a program he didn't write. Now, you can manage this. Training helps, so does a solid place command and slow exposure to new people. None of that erases the wiring, though. The wiring is the breed, and people keep wanting to hear that the snapping is fixable. It's manageable. Different word. The folks who refuse to hear that are usually the ones rehoming the dog at 2. A baseboard chewed down to the studs. The corner of the couch, gone. Not chewed, gone. Like someone took a sander to it. And on the carpet, in a perfect little pile, what used to be a remote control. This is what 8 hours alone looks like for an understimulated Aussie. And the owner comes home and goes, "Why would he do this? He's a good dog. He's never been destructive." Right, he's never been bored before either. Boredom in a working breed isn't the same thing as boredom in like a pug. A pug gets bored and takes a longer nap. And Aussie gets bored and his brain starts looking for problems to solve. If you don't give it one, it'll find one. And the problem it finds is usually structural. The pattern is super predictable, actually. First it's small, pulling threads out of a rug, carrying shoes around but not destroying them. Cute, you think. Then it escalates, because the dog learns that chewing the corner of the table gets a reaction, which is at least something, and an Aussie would rather have a negative reaction than be ignored for 9 straight hours. And the worst part? Owners almost always blame the dog. Bad dog, destructive dog, when it's just a working animal with a 200 IQ brain and 0 assignments. You wouldn't lock a border collie in a closet and act surprised when it lost it. Same dog, basically. The Aussie's just better at looking sorry afterwards. $5 to $7 grand per hip. That's what a total hip replacement on an Aussie runs you, and dysplasia is bilateral most of the time, so double it. $10,000 to $12,000 if you go the surgical route. If you don't, you're looking at a lifetime of carprofen, joint supplements, ramps for the couch, and watching your dog stiffen up by year 7. And that's the optimistic version. The realistic one is the dog can't do stairs at 6, can't jump in the car at 7, and you're hauling a 50-pound Aussie around because his back legs just don't really work the way they used to. And Aussies get hip dysplasia. A lot. More than the breed clubs want to admit on their glossy little pamphlets. It's a when and how bad situation, not an if. The other thing people miss, pet insurance won't cover it if it's flagged as pre-existing, which it often is because the early signs show up before most people even take the dog in. The little bunny hop when they run, the reluctance to jump up on stuff, sitting weird. Easy to write off as, oh, he's just lazy today. And by the time you're at the vet getting the x-ray, the insurance company's already got their out. So pick a breeder who actually does OFA hip scoring on both parents, not vet-checked, not cleared by our vet. OFA, pen hip, real documentation with numbers on it. If they get cagey when you ask, walk away. 10 grand on the line, not worth gambling on. "2 years old is the magic number every breed website promises. They mellow out at 2. Yeah, sure they do. What actually happens at 2 is your Aussie figures out that knocking over the trash can is boring now and graduates to opening cabinets. They don't get less energetic, they get more strategic. The puppy who chewed shoes is now a 4-year-old who's learned that if she stares at you for 40 minutes straight while you're on a work call, you'll eventually cave and take her out. Which, congratulations, you've just trained. Mouthing turns into hurting. Your ankles, the kids, the vacuum, the mailman. And the zoomies? Now those come with property damage. Lamps, coffee tables, that throw blanket your mom knitted, gone. People on the breed forums talk about Aussies who've shredded baseboards, opened refrigerators, learned to operate door handles. Door handles. Not paw at them, operate them. Lever-style handles in particular, those are basically just dog toys at that point. And the thing is, from the dog's point of view, none of this is destruction. It's work. They were bred to work. 12 hours a day moving sheep across a hillside, reading the shepherd, making decisions. You took that away and gave them a 1-bedroom apartment and a 30-minute walk. And now they're inventing jobs. Cabinet opening is a job. Counter surfing is a job. Disassembling the couch cushion to find out what's inside is, well, that's research. Claw marks on drywall, door frames chewed through, crates bent, actually bent, like the wire pulled apart from the inside. This is the version where you walk in after a grocery run and stand there for a minute, trying to figure out what happened. You can find the videos on the breed subreddits. People posting their living rooms after a 4-hour trip out. Looks like a B&E. Stuffing everywhere, blind shredded, sometimes blood because the dog cut its paws or its gums trying to get out a window. The reason it hits this breed so hard, they're bonded, Velcro dogs in the worst-case scenario, bred to work alongside one person all day, reading that person's body language minute by minute. So when that person disappears for 8 hours and the dog doesn't know if you're ever coming back, that's panic, genuine full-body panic. And the cruel part is, the standard advice doesn't really work. Crate train them, sure, except a panicking Aussie will hurt itself trying to get out of the crate. Tire them out before you leave. Helps a little, doesn't solve it. Get a second dog for company. Now you've got 2 dogs with separation anxiety. Congratulations. Some people end up on fluoxetine for the dog, long term. Not a moral failing, not bad ownership. Sometimes that's just what it takes to get the dog through a Tuesday. Twice a year, your Aussie basically detonates. Spring, fall, the undercoat doesn't fall out, it evacuates in clumps. You'll be sitting there drinking coffee and a tuft the size of a hamster will just drift past your foot. And you're like, where did that even come from? I brushed her yesterday. That's the thing nobody tells you. The baseline shedding, the everyday hair on your pants, hair in your cereal level, that's just the normal setting. The blowout is a separate event. It's its own season, and it lasts like 3 weeks. People hear double coat and they nod like they get it. They don't. A double coat means there's a top coat doing the weather job, and underneath that there's this dense woolly layer that the dog grows for winter and then chucks for summer. The chucking part is what gets you. Undercoat rakes, slickers, de-shedding tools, the whole arsenal. You'll buy them all. None of them solve it. They just manage it, barely. And look, I think people genuinely underestimate how much this changes your life. You start vacuuming on a schedule. You start checking your shirt before meetings. Black pants become a memory. The car? Forget the car. There's a layer of Aussie permanently bonded to the upholstery now. That's just your car. Honestly, if you can't handle a Roomba running daily, this is not your breed, not even close. You go meet a breeder. You ask about health. They'll talk about hip scores. They'll mention MDR1, the drug sensitivity thing, because there's an actual test for it, and they can wave the paperwork around. Eyes get cleared annually. Great. What you usually don't hear about, at least not until you ask, and even then sometimes you just get a shrug, is idiopathic epilepsy, which is a fancy way of saying seizures with no identifiable cause. The dog's brain just decides at some point to misfire, and then it keeps doing it. In Aussies, it tends to show up between, 1 and 5 years old. So you've had the dog 2-3 years, she's the best thing in your life, and then one night she drops sideways on the kitchen floor, and her legs are paddling, and you have absolutely no idea what's happening. That's how it starts for a lot of people. Here's what makes it brutal. There's no DNA test for it. You can't screen it out the way you can with MDR1. Breeders can stop breeding lines that throw it, and the good ones do. But a lot of casual breeders either don't know their pedigree well enough, or they just don't volunteer it. because telling you costs them a sale. So ask. Ask if any siblings or parents or grandparents have seized. Watch the face. The pause tells you everything. Pick the puppy up at 8 weeks. By 16 weeks, her brain has basically decided who's safe and who isn't. And after that, you're not socializing anymore. You're doing damage control. That window is real. It's small. And most people sleep through it because nobody told them the clock was ticking. The standard advice from a well-meaning vet is wait till the shots are done. Don't take her anywhere. Parvo, distemper, the whole list. Which, fair, those are real risks. But while you're keeping her in a bubble, the brain is doing its calibration anyway. It's deciding the world is the 4 people in your house and the floor of your living room. That's what normal looks like to her now. And Aussies are not a she'll grow out of it breed. They're herders, wary by default, suspicious of strangers, suspicious of dogs she doesn't know. The guy in the high-vis vest by the mailbox, she's not loving him either. If you don't load up that brain with safe exposures, kids, men in hats, traffic, vacuum cleaners, the works, before about week 16, you get a reactive adult. And reactive adult Aussies are a lot. So you carry her. You take her to the pet store in your arms. You sit on a bench outside a coffee shop and let people walk by. You don't wait for the all clear, because the all clear comes after the window's already shut. I'm exaggerating with the title, a little. Honestly, not by much. An Aussie that doesn't get worked, and I mean actually worked, not took a nice walk around the block before work, turns into a problem dog, fast, like weeks fast. Here's what nobody tells you when you bring one home. This is a dog bred to move sheep across ranches in Colorado all day long, not for an hour, all day. So when you stick that dog in a suburban backyard with a 15-minute walk and a Kong toy, what you're doing is, I don't know, parking a Ferrari in a closet. The engine doesn't go away, it just starts revving against the walls. And the walls, in this case, are your kids, your guests, the mailman, the neighbor's bike. Aussies don't get destructive in the lab chewing a shoe way. They go weird. Compulsive tail chasing, spinning in circles, light fixation, nipping at heels, which sounds cute until it's a 4-year-old at a birthday party. Then it's a phone call from someone's lawyer. I've seen people online genuinely shocked when their Aussie develops what they're calling aggression issues at 8 months old. It's not aggression. It's a working dog with no work. The dog is doing the only thing it knows how to do, which is herd things. And the only things available to herd are you, your toddler, the Roomba. You wanted a smart dog. Congrats, you got one. Now give it a job, or it'll invent one. Those ice blue eyes everyone keeps Instagramming, they're a genetic mutation. Sorry, that comes out harsher than I mean it. Let me back up. The Merle pattern, the thing that gives Aussies that gorgeous marbled coat and the spooky pale eyes, is caused by a single gene. 1 copy, you get a healthy, beautiful dog. 2 copies, what breeders call a double Merle, and you get something else entirely. Often a dog that's mostly white, usually deaf, often blind on top of that. Now, the ugly part. Some breeders know exactly what happens when you breed 2 Merles together, and they do it anyway. The puppies that come out healthy sell for a premium. The ones that don't, yeah, you can look up what happens to them if you want. I'd rather not type it out. So when you're scrolling Instagram and you see an Aussie with 2 startling blue eyes and a coat that's like 90% white with little marbled patches, that's not rare and exotic. That's very likely a dog from an irresponsible breeding. The dog itself might be perfectly fine, might live a long, happy life. Or it might be going through life deaf and half blind, with a stack of medical bills nobody mentions in the cute reel. Blue eyes by themselves aren't the warning sign. Plenty of healthy Aussies have one or two. The warning sign is the breeder. If they can't tell you both parents' Merle status, walk away. Just walk. Don't even argue about it. People hear high energy and they think, okay, long walks, throw the ball, run him at the park. Done. That'll knock him out. It won't, not even close. Working line dogs don't max out their cardio the way you'd expect. You run an Aussie 2 miles a day, and in 3 weeks, he's running 2 miles like it's nothing. So you bump it to 4. Same thing happens. You're basically training an athlete, and the more you train an athlete, the more he can handle, which means he needs more, which means you give more, which means, yeah, you see where this goes. I think this is the single biggest mistake new Aussie owners make. They confuse physical exhaustion with a tired dog. A tired dog is mentally tired. Mentally. The brain has to be the thing that's worn out, not the legs. Because a physically exhausted Aussie with a sharp brain, that's a dog who's just had a warm-up and is now looking for something to do. And the something he picks is usually not what you wanted him to pick. The remote, the baseboards, your shoes, the cat. So forget more mileage. The move is puzzle feeders, scent work, obedience drills, trick training, anything that makes him think. 15 minutes of nose work will flatten an Aussie harder than an hour at the park. Honestly, it's not even close. Look, a lab, a golden, even most breeds. You feed them, you walk them, you love them. You're basically good. There's slack in the system. Forget a walk one day, big deal. An Aussie doesn't have that slack.
You skip the morning routine. By 11 a.m., he's reorganizing your kitchen. Forget the afternoon brain work, and he's herding the kids around the living room by dinner. There's no coasting. The dog runs on input, and the input is you. Let me actually break down what a normal Aussie day looks like. Morning workout, real one, not a pee and back. Then a training session, even 10 minutes, but it has to happen. Then enrichment, frozen Kong, snuffle mat, whatever. Something to work the nose. Midday potty plus a check-in. Afternoon mental work, scent game or obedience drills. Evening exercise. Ideally something with a job baked in, like fetch with rules. Then grooming, coat needs work several times a week or you're vacuuming forever. Then settle training, so he actually learns to chill, because Aussies don't default to chill. That's every day. Not weekends, not when you feel like it, every single day. And the thing is, you don't get paid for any of it. The dog doesn't even say thanks. He just looks at you at 6 a.m. like, so, what are we doing today? That's the gig. That's what you signed up for. A lot of people didn't read the contract. Look, if you've made it this far and you're still thinking about getting one, good. Genuinely, that means you're doing the work the impulse buyers skip. Because the Aussie story goes the same way every time. People see the coat, the eyes, the TikTok of one catching a frisbee midair, and they go all in. Buy the dog. 7 months later, they're in some Facebook group asking why their puppy is hurting the toddler and chewing through drywall, and barking at the ceiling fan like it personally insulted him. Answer is always the same. The dog's bored. Bored out of his skull. Aussies have the brain of a mid-level project manager, and you handed it the tennis ball in a backyard. So if you're gonna do this, and I'm not saying don't, plenty of people do it well, just go in with eyes open. 2 walks a day isn't enough. A fenced yard isn't enough. You need to actually engage this dog. Training, puzzles, a job. Something that tires the brain, not just the legs.
Tired legs and a fresh brain is how you end up with a dog that rearranges your shoe rack at 11 p.m.
And the parenting part? I mean, that's kind of the whole thing, right? Be consistent, be patient when the herding instinct kicks in around the kids, because it will. And yelling doesn't help. Get the MDR1 test done before any vet reaches for ivermectin. Brush the dog. Like, actually brush it, not the once-a-month guilt session where you find a sock you lost in March.
And honestly, get good at saying no. No, the puppy isn't coming on every hike yet. The dog park with 60 strangers isn't happening this week either. And buddy, you can't herd the Roomba. The dog is going to be incredible. Just be a good parent.